G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to Aussie Real Talk. Let's hit the couch, order a pizza and chuck on Netflix, because they've dropped a new action sci-fi flick, War Machine. War Machine stars Alan Ritchson as 81, an American soldier who wants nothing more than to earn the title of US Army Ranger. His motivation comes from losing his brother 2 years earlier in Afghanistan, briefly played by Jai Courtney, who dreamed of becoming Rangers alongside him before dying in a Taliban attack. In the final stage of recruitment, the soldiers embark on a brutal death march, a simulated rescue mission filled with booby traps and staged scenarios designed to test their grit, teamwork and endurance. But in the middle of this training exercise, they encounter something very real, an invading alien robot sent from space to wipe out humanity. It hunts them like animals. If you're thinking Predator, you'd be correct. The Terminator? Correct again. Aliens? 3 for 3. While the movie is far from original, from its predictable plot structure to its fairly wooden military character types, there's still quite a bit to enjoy in War Machine. Usually the first act of films like this can feel a little bland as you wait for the inevitable monster or villain to arrive. But the training sequences at the Ranger camp, led by Dennis Quaid and Asai Morales, are actually pretty engaging. They're well shot, energetic, and packed with adrenaline. We also see the other Ranger candidates starting to notice how 81 operates. He's physically capable, but reluctant to lead, and is carrying some serious mental baggage from his past. But once the alien finally arrives, the violence ramps up quickly. Much like Amazon's The Bluff, also filmed in Australia, the action is bloody, brutal, and full of gore, which honestly makes the sequences all the more entertaining. The action scenes themselves are well shot, with tight cinematography that increases tension. The alien also brings a few interesting gimmicks to the table, including laser sensor lights and the ability to disrupt magnetic fields, which leads to swirling compasses becoming a recurring visual motif throughout the film. Another repeated theme is the idea of making it to the finish line. It's something 81 failed to do when trying to save his brother, and something he now needs to achieve by becoming a ranger and saving his fellow soldiers. The symbolism is simple and repeated often, but it still hits the right emotional notes. To his credit, Ritchson actually steps up his acting game here slightly, compared to some of his more recent roles including Fast X. Alongside the solid action direction, with quick camera pans and cleverly hidden cuts, the musical score also fits the genre nicely. It keeps the momentum going and helps distract from the fact that many of the characters and lines of dialogue are pretty underdeveloped. The acting across the board is mostly fine, though a few Australian actors slip into their natural accents while trying to sound American. Ironically, the most experienced of the bunch, Jai Courtney, is one of them. And while you might initially nitpick the weak character development, as have I, you'll probably stop caring once the action kicks in and you're watching soldiers get blown to pieces with a big grin on your face. As for the alien itself, it clearly fills the same role as the Predator, particularly from the Arnold Schwarzenegger film, but visually it's closer to a Terminator machine. In some scenes it looks terrifying and unstoppable, but in others it does sort of resemble a very large grey bird. The third act wraps up pretty much exactly how you'd expect, especially after hearing about the finish line every 10 minutes. However, the film adds a few extra scenes at the end, suggesting the story might not be over. Sequel bait? Or just an unusual ending to a safely structured film? I'll let you decide. Real talk, War Machine is a straightforward, safely structured action sci-fi movie that leans heavily into violent action, an intense score, and tight cinematography. Alan Ritchson fits the role of Ranger Hopeful 81 perfectly. He's physically convincing and actually shows some emotional range when the story touches on his traumatic backstory. Yes, there are plenty of plot conveniences, predictable moments, and a bunch of side characters you won't learn much about. But honestly, will you care? You're watching a Netflix movie about Jack Reacher fighting an alien robot, and that is a lot of fun. Aussie Real Talk gives War Machine 3 out of 5. What did you think of the movie? Let us know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this review, feel free to like and subscribe. Cheers!